Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. KSAMC at odds with Entertainment Ministry over development of Fort Rocky. 30 million and counting. Tuesday's cell disruption, a costly venture to telecoms companies. And later in sports, Cavalier FC loses to Inter Miami in CONCACAF Champions Cup. I'm Carrie and Simpson. Here are the details. Tension is brewing between the Ministry of Entertainment and the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation over the plan to transform the historic town of Fort Rocky in Port Royal in a bustling entertainment zone. In a statement today, the KSAMC said there are unauthorized activities taking place at Fort Rocky, adding that the ministry and the Jamaica National Heritage Trust began the project without any consultation with the local government body. Kingston Mayor Andrew Swaby, who visited the area, said the KSAMC has identified several concerning issues, including the demolition of structures, clearing of mangrove-covered lands, and an unregulated layout. Mr. Swaby asserted that these activities were undertaken without the necessary approvals from the KSAMC. Nevertheless, he says the KSAMC has intervened to assess and address the breaches. The municipal corporation adds that it intends to serve notices to the lead project manager and the Jamaica National Heritage Trust, noting that the National Environment and Planning Agency, NEPA, has already issued 2 enforcement notices for multiple environmental breaches. The Telecommunications Ministry says recommendations have been made to increase the fines for persons who vandalize the country's telecoms network. Minister Darrell Vaz gave the update this morning at the Standing Finance Committee meeting. It comes after vandals earlier this week caused massive disruptions in telecommunication services following damage to fiber optic cables.
Received from one telecommunication service provider in excess of 200,000 to 32 million Jamaican dollars worth of damage was occasioned to the network because of this action. And this figure does not take into account the costs associated with having to mobilize a crew to work assiduously to have the fiber repaired within the day, nor the impact of the thousands of customers who were affected. As a ministry and a government, we take these reports of vandalism seriously. In this regard, through the Law Reform Amendment of Penalties Bill 2025, recommendations have been referred to the Legislation Committee of Parliament to increase the fines and custodial sentences under the Telecommunications Act.
Now, under the Telecoms Act, for a first offense of trespassing or vandalism, the charge is $3 million or 3 years in prison. For repeated offenders, it's $5 million or 5 years. Now, as it pertains to going to court,
on conviction before a circuit court, to a fine or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 15 years. So the option definitely would be for circuit court.
Procurement issues are being blamed for the slow pace of repairs of courts. Now, despite those challenges, at least 2 court buildings have been upgraded in the past few months. The details in this report from Dwayne Anderson.
The poor state of some of Jamaica's courts prompted an unprecedented move by Chief Justice Brian Sykes in 2024. He called a press conference to demand infrastructural upgrades. Fast forward, and nearly 6 months later, the Justice Minister Delroy Chuck says at least 2 of the buildings that were in a rundown state have been repaired.
The Balaclava Court now is first-class facilities. We spent $50 million to fix it. And the Linstead Court, I visited there last week Friday. When I went there about after burial, it was in a atrocious condition. Members will recall that Linstead Court was where a judge fell through. I saw the floors wood, and I insisted that they should be removed. And they not only have the Linstead floors been removed, new roof, but you have 2 first-class courts.
But that's just 2 of too many. So what's the plan for the others?
We got over $500 million to improve courthouses. We have spent only just over 300. We have over 100, which we're hoping to continue to improve the courthouses. but procurement has been a problem to get a number of these improvements done, but we're hoping that some will be completed before the end of the fiscal year.
Some of the courts, he explained, fell into disrepair due to damage from Hurricane Beryl. The Justice Minister, in the meantime, assured lawmakers that the government has been able to pay all its judgment debts.
1.1 billion of judgment debt have been satisfied. And what is more, we have another 300 million. If any more judgment debt can be settled, we can satisfy all the judgment debt. So I can tell you, colleagues, we are extremely happy with the fact that, all our mediators are being paid, facilitators, everybody, in fact.
The matters were ventilated at Thursday's meeting of the Standing Finance Committee of Parliament. Dwayne Anderson, TVJ News.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness continues to face criticism for his decision to challenge the Integrity Commission in the courts. The matter arose after the commission failed to certify his statutory declarations from as far back as 2021. And with the election period already in high gear, the parliamentary opposition will not let Jamaicans forget that his financial standings and assets have not been given the green light from the commission.
At a time when it was not required by law, I made my returns to the Integrity Commission public. I started with 5 bank accounts and I ended with 5.
Also staunch criticisms of the constitutional reform process. Former PNP President and former Prime Minister P.J. Patterson says, based on his observation, it's not about the people. Mr. Patterson, who was speaking at a PNP function Thursday night, says the reform process and the proposed amendments will only give the executive...
They want to enable certain amendments to proceed without 2/3 majority in both houses. I don't have to say anything here about the lunacy of leaving the King's crown but remaining in the King's court. I said then I would never ever agree to the head of state being chosen in a manner which makes that person beholden to a simple majority vote.
To other news, the Health Ministry is reporting that there are no current cases of measles in Jamaica. According to the ministry, the country has not seen local spread since 1991, and the last reported rather imported case was in 2011. The ministry's statement follows guidance from the Pan American Health Organization (PAHO) and the World Health Organization (WHO), urging countries to maintain efforts to eliminate measles, rubella, and congenital rubella syndrome. PAHO and WHO warns that the risk of outbreaks has risen globally due to low vaccination coverage. Now, despite this, the Health Ministry says Jamaica's surveillance system remains strong, with all suspected cases reported promptly. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Jacqueline Biseso-McKenzie notes that measles symptoms typically appear 7 to 21 days after exposure and often start with fever, cough, and runny nose. There's a growing concern in St. Catherine regarding a mosquito nuisance at an IGL facility. The issue was recently highlighted at a health and sanitation meeting by the municipal corporation. Now, the corporation is calling on the St. Catherine Public Health Department to address the problem. Shamila Pullen reports.
Residents living near the IGL plant in St. Catherine have been vocal about their concerns regarding debris at the facility, which they claim is a major breeding site for mosquitoes. The St. Catherine Public Health Department has acknowledged receiving the reports and visited the facility on January 20. However, Chief Public Health Inspector Denise Douglas says the team was denied access.
However, they checked the surrounding area and they did find some amount of breeding, some tires. They went by the police station and as well as Tile City, and fogging was done in the general area.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned of this week when I got a hold of the minutes.
But Chairman of the Public Health and Sanitation Committee, Councillor Sydney Rose, questioned her explanation, arguing that more could be done to address the mosquito breeding site concerns.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Under the Public Health Act.
No, it was closed. Nobody was there. No security.
Okay.
Right. Nobody was there.
Security is there, but
nobody was there.
Okay.
That's the report I got. That no one was
security
there.
works here 24/7 because a multi-million-dollar investment with a lot of stuff all over the place. Trucks, cylinders, everything is there. So security is always there.
I know the premises.
Yes.
The chairman is also demanding that the Public Health Department treat the situation with urgency.
I'm asking again because the complaints are still coming in as it relates because there are massive amount of rotten cylinders that are all over the place, all over the property, and some old vehicle and some old equipment all over the place. So it's a serious
nuisance. The cylinders and the tools that are there
all over the compound.
Okay.
If you stay from outside and you look, you'd have to understand.
Oh, so what I'll do then, I'll ask the inspector with responsibility for the vector control program to visit with the vector control team to serve a notice.
Right. So I'm hoping that for the next meeting, we'll have something much more positive. Thank you, Inspector.
Shamela Pullen, TVJ News.
As the world goes deeper into the world of artificial intelligence, a Jamaican-born computer expert who has established businesses in the U.S. is spending millions to bring the technology and related skills to students in southern Manchester. Here's Krista Campbell.
In my estimation, I think we're at least a decade and a half behind the developed world as it relates to education and technology. And my goal is to bring as much technology back as I possibly can.
But to do that, St. Catherine native Dominic Gowdy has teamed up with another organization to expose young students in southern Manchester to artificial intelligence and coding.
Gelevate and IEI have intentions of contributing $750,000 US to South Manchester in an effort to develop the community's infrastructure, as well as to support the educational systems in place today.
Member of Parliament Robert Chin commended the move as a major step in preparing students for a job market that will be largely technology-driven.
Prepare them to not only for the job, but they can also dictate and innovate how technology will go in the future.
You're going to learn how to build video games. You're going to learn about how to start your own business in technology. And we're going to ask them to do the same. We're going to ask them to build a website using code, numbers and digits surrounding who inspires them.
Because they're so interested in these devices, they will benefit a lot. They'll learn.
About 100 laptops were presented at the recent launch of the initiative to get the schools started with their coding program and website development. Krista Campbell, TVJ News.
It's time for a break. Stay with us, more local stories when we return. Welcome back. We're continuing the news. Mayor of Montego Bay, Richard Vernon, is urging the people of St. James to tap into their creative side and do more with art. He believes that art is a powerful tool to engage more people and bring the community together.
Exploring the idea of setting up certain forms of installation so our locals can enjoy it and our tourists can experience it. I've seen it in other places. I have seen it in New York, for example, with the Tribeca installation. we need to do more with art in Montego Bay. And I'm challenging you to take on that road, to take it further.
Mr. Vernon says the St. James Municipal Corporation will collaborate with individuals and organizations willing to participate in promoting art in the parish.
I want to invite our Montegonians to promote and be a part of these things. Instead of saying, boy, I don't know what's happening in Montego Bay today. These are some of the things happening, and we want you to be a part of it. And I'm asking you to give us much support through sponsorship, membership, you name it, to the First Dance Studio. Because this is what is going to help us to preserve our culture, maintain, reduce crime. The numbers are down.
It's now time for the Business Minute.
Scotia Group is reporting an increase of $1.1 billion or 34.5% in net income for the first quarter of this year compared to last year. The group's asset base also grew by $73.3 billion or 11% to $739.2 billion as at January 2025 and was underpinned by its performance in the loan and investment portfolios. Now, deposits by the public increased by $34.4 billion or 7.5% versus the corresponding period in 2024. Scotia says its total loans increased from $275.7 billion to $312.5 billion, representing an increase of 13.3%. Commercial loans increased by 5% over the prior year. Further afield, the European Central Bank (ECB) has cut interest rates for the sixth time in 9 months as it seeks to bolster Eurozone economic growth. Now, the bank stuck to its plan to lower rates in the face of economic challenges, including threats of US tariffs and plans to boost European military spending. The ECB cut its main interest rate to 2.5% from 2.75% and once again reduced its forecasts for economic growth in the Eurozone. The latest cut came as a sell-off of German government bonds spread to other bond markets, including the UK. For the Business Minute, I'm O'Shane Masters.
Time now for the top regional and international stories.
In news from the region, JetBlue Airways has pushed back the resumption of flights to Haiti, citing ongoing civil unrest and security concerns. The airline had previously suspended flights until April 30, but now says service will remain halted until at least June 11 this year. A spokesperson for JetBlue told the Miami Herald that the airline will continue to closely monitor the situation and provide an update on plans as necessary. On the international scene, a South Korean court cancelled the impeached president's arrest warrant on Friday, potentially paving the way for his release from jail while he faces trial on insurrection charges over a brief imposition of martial law. The Central District Court said in a statement that its ruling was based on the timing of the indictment that came after the initial detention period had expired, and noted questions about the legality of the investigation process that involved two separate agencies. And millions of residents along Australia's eastern coast are bracing for the arrival of a very slow-moving storm. It is the most southerly tropical cyclone to threaten the region in more than 50 years. Tropical Storm Alfred is expected to make landfall late Friday or early Saturday, with the strength of a Category 1 Atlantic hurricane as it swirls westward toward the city of Brisbane, home to 2.5 million people. And those were the top regional and international stories. I am Dwayne Anderson.
Thanks, Dwayne, and we head to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have your midday sports report.